Hello, everyone. My name is Arun Pamulapati. I am Senior Staff Security Field Engineer at Databricks. With me is Ben, and Ben Johns is part of our AI security work group that we ran in 2024 over a period of 4 months, assembly of a lot of experts from different parts of AI and security. And with their contribution, we updated Databricks AI Security Framework 2.0 and did a lot of work around mapping a security framework to a lot of standards, 9 to be specific. And also we did impact analysis. So we are here to present that work and how to use Databricks AI Security Framework 2.0 with the accompanying Compendium document, as well as other assets that we are about to release as part of Databricks AI Security Framework 2.0. So before we go further, I would like Ben to introduce himself, and then we'll get started with the deep dive into Databricks AI Security Framework 2.0.
Thanks, Arun. Yes, my name is Ben Johns. I'm a cybersecurity risk expert and had the great pleasure of participating in the contribution working group for DASF 2.0. So I will be taking you through the Compendium document later on in the presentation. Back to you, Arun. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Databricks AI Security Framework is a holistic approach to AI system security. To accomplish that, what we did was we took an approach of looking at AI system as 12 components, starting from simple raw data ingest all the way to how you integrate that into your AI applications through inference requests and inference responses. With those 12 components in hand for the AI system components, we identified 62 technical security risks within those 12 components. And we also identified 64 mitigation controls for those risks. In the Databricks AI Security Framework white paper, we go at length how you can have different teams within your organization collaborate to understand these AI system components, the risks involved, and the responsibilities around how to mitigate those risks. With Databricks AI Security Framework 2.0, we updated the risks and the controls as part of the work group that Ben and I was involved. And then we identified the necessary controls to controls based on 9+ standards that we reviewed and mapped in that effort. We released that as a compendium, both as a Google worksheet as well as Microsoft Excel document, so that you all can actually have a copy of this effort, which we are going to go in a bit more detail when Ben walks us through the overall worksheet. We also did risk impact analysis, and then in the white paper, we documented how we approach AI security and the red teaming of your AI system overall, like how you should be thinking about and what tools and what process you should be following to do red teaming on your AI system. We also documented how we approach at Databricks the incident response to AI systems, how it is different from our traditional cybersecurity incident response. As I mentioned, the compendium includes the 9 different standards, both for the risks that the 62 risks that we identified, as well as for the 64 controls, so that if you are approaching your AI system security from any of these standards perspective, you have detailed documentation of those standards. As I mentioned, we took the holistic approach to AI system and we broke that into 12 different components so that it's easier to understand and identify where the risks may appear in a given AI system. And we documented for each one of those AI system component the specific risks as part of the white paper and the compendium, so that you have a good understanding when we talk about a specific risk, you know where that risk is in a bigger AI system component, so that you will be able to assign and identify that specific risk on a given AI system component and who would be responsible for handling that specific risk. Here is the comprehensive list of those 62 risks in those 12 components. And we make this available with detailed description and various types of mappings from various standards so that you have comprehensive list as well as the details of each one of those specific risks. Once you understand those risks and where they may appear, your next step would be, how do I mitigate these risks? So we took the time to study those standards and also pouring in our own experience in the field at Databricks. We identified 64 controls and we documented these controls in detail, both in the white paper and the compendium, so that you know what the risk control and the description of that control, so that if you are using any generic platform, not necessarily just Databricks, you know what the control should be. And then if you happen to be on Databricks platform, we provide you the capability that would help you accomplish that specific control. In the white paper, as well as in the compendium, we leave you with documentation links to all those 64 controls and how to implement them on Databricks platform. So with that, I request Ben to walk us through the process of how to use Databricks AI Security Framework with the white paper and the compendium that we are going to leave you with, so that you can actually practice AI security in your enterprise. Ben?
Thank you. Yeah, so what I'm going to walk you through today is how you would operationalize this framework within your organization. So the first section is, as Arun sort of explained to us, we need to sit down and understand our use cases, our stakeholders, and how you're deploying your models. So the white paper and the compendium document will help you sort of get that understanding, understand your deployment model, which is primarily how we do risk applicability within this framework. The second section is you need to sit down and review those AI security components and the risks and to understand them. So this is your chance to review and learn and then understand what mitigation controls might be available for those risks. So the way that the compendium document and the white paper is written, it's written so you don't necessarily have to be a Databricks customer, but if you are, there's a lot of helpful information on how you would understand those controls and implement them if you needed to. And the next section is you would need to understand how you would evaluate those risks, controls, and impacts. So the compendium document will help you operationalize that by doing some basic filtering on deployment models, which will give you a refined set of risks, controls, and impact statements that you could use for your risk assessment and your implementation of controls. So whether you're a Databricks customer or not a Databricks customer, it will give you some very helpful information on how to implement controls to reduce risk within your AI systems. So this is an attempt again to help you operationalize in a workflow of how you would refine those 62 risks down to the applicable risks and applicable controls for your AI models. So in step one, you'd be understanding your business use case for your AI systems. And you do a bit of documentation around, what are your data sets, who are your stakeholders, what are your compliance requirements, and how are you deploying these models into your applications, whether they're customer facing or just internal business applications. Step two, this comes back to your deployment models. So based on the white paper and your understanding of deployment models within your organization, we have these 6 high-level deployment models that have been documented in the white paper. And in the compendium document, you can use these to filter and come to those refined set of or subset of DASF risks. So that's coming into this second column. What is your risk applicability? based on your use case and your deployment models, that's where you'd come to understanding of your refined set of risks. And into the third column, once you understand those risks, you need to then understand what are your actual controls that you need to implement for each of those risks to be able to manage them and monitor them properly. So that's the basis of the workflow that we're introducing as part of DASF 2.0 to help you try to operationalize this framework into your systems. So on that point, I will share the Compendium document on screen now. Okay, so the first couple of sheets, we've got like an introduction into the Compendium document. And again, this is available as a Google Sheet as well as a Microsoft Excel document, and they're exactly the same. So the content and the way the document works is the same on both versions. The second tab is just a table of contents, what we've put into this Compendium document. The third worksheet is a full list of the AI risks that have come from the white paper. So we've just basically done like a data dump in and started formatting them into some nice some column structures. So it starts with risk ID and then description, and then the mitigation controls that are applicable to those risks, and then a description of sort of more of a detailed description of each of those controls, and then coming on to the deployment model. So each risk has been given assignment to a deployment model depending on how we've defined them and how we've understood them to be applicable or not applicable for every scenario. So that information is across all of the risks that we have in the white paper for this framework. And then the next piece of information we've got is applicable risk impact. So this is something new to version 2.0 that we've put together. So based on every risk in the framework, we have some very specific impact statements. So initial impact statements and then secondary business impact statements. So this is like a risk taxonomy or impact taxonomy that you could use as part of your risk assessment or impact assessment for your AI systems. So it is a starting point for you to understand what the potential impacts might be for every given risk within this framework. The other main section to this version 2.0 is how we've mapped each of our risks to external standards and frameworks. So we've got 9 standards that we've mapped to. Each one that we've done multiple rounds of reviews with external contributors to make sure that we are mapping them to the right framework control for each risk. So where we found helpful information, we've put in hyperlinks to these external websites where you can go and look at for further information and for your own reading and education if you need to. But we've done that for all of the 9 frameworks that we've chosen to be the most appropriate for this AI security framework. So that's for your reading and education if you wish to look at that. So on the next tab, the mitigation controls, we've also done this mapping. I'll just quickly show you. Yeah, so we've done like a reverse mapping. So we've got mappings for both the risk the risks as well as the mitigation controls, all of those 9 frameworks. I'll scroll the way back over. So this spreadsheet essentially is basically all of those DASF controls that we've documented, all the way up to, what is it,
64.
64, there you go. So all of them. So that's got the sort of all of the detail that's been put into the white paper. We've extracted that out into this sort of tabular format. So you can export it out and do whatever you want to do with it if you need to. Again, if you're a Databricks customer, you've got links here to how these controls are being implemented or how you can implement them if you need to. And then some other sort of more helpful information. I know, Arun, do you want to quickly talk about security analysis tool?
Yeah, definitely. So if you are a Databricks customer, you can also validate if you actually deployed these controls in your Databricks workspaces. So you can use a security analysis tool to automatically check if those controls are enabled or implemented within your Databricks workspace.
Yeah. So that we've tried to pull as much helpful information out of the white paper into this compendium document. So yeah, so it sometimes it can be a bit more easier to use than reading through the white paper. And the other thing that we introduced is this ability to refine down what your applicable risks and applicable controls might be. So instead of looking at every single control and every single risk, you should just maybe look at the ones that are more appropriate to your AI system. So that's the next two worksheet documents. So we've got risk applicability and control applicability. So we'll take you through risk applicability first. And again, this is available on the Excel version as well, and it works in exactly the same way. So what you'll notice here is there's a bit of informational detail around your AI system. So there's an area where you can quickly just note down what your AI use case might be, what data sets that you might be using to train or fine tune on an existing model. Some of the stakeholder information, which is quite important, if they're external stakeholders or internal stakeholders, any compliance requirements, and that again might be external compliance as well as internal. And then a section where you can note down what applications might be using this AI system. It might be a public-facing customer application, or it might be just something internal. Yep, go for it, Arun.
Now we are bringing all that information from the AI lifecycle risks sheet and AI mitigation controls. We are bringing all of that together. Now we are making this actionable from this sheet. So in this case, your AI use case may be
credit decisioning, something like that, or it could be a medical use case, diagnosis, patient diagnosis. It could be anything, whatever your AI goal or objective might be.
And then the data set may be personal health data set.
Yep.
And then stakeholders can be the lines of businesses that are either providing the data set or on the receiving end of this AI system where they are integrating and building apps on this, and the legal team that is approving. So this would be your overall team and the users of the system. You would be annotating them here as part of stakeholders.
Yeah, and it could be external users that might be affected by a decisioning model or something like that. It's up to the organization to predefine that, understand what that is, and this is any area where you could document it if you don't already document it somewhere else.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
Yeah, and the applications are the applications that are being built on top of this AI system.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Let's show them how this looks in action.
Yeah. So at the moment, this list of risks is unfiltered. So that's every single risk that's in the framework is currently all the way down. As soon as you start using this AI deployment model drop-down list, that's when the risks will be filtered on applicability. So whatever we've marked as yes in the main worksheet for the model deployment types will be filtered using that drop-down menu. So if you've worked out that you're just using RAG LLMs, and then you select that one, it goes through and works out what the applicability is. And now you've got a refined set of risks. It's not every single one, it's just the ones that we've selected yes. And then if you've worked out that you use multiple deployment types, you can select multiple from the drop-down menu. And again, it will just work out where it sees yes based on those both two deployment model types. And it's an interactive menu as well, so you can go and deselect it. And the script in the background, the filtering, will go through and update it as well. You'll get a little message here saying what it's doing. So we've tested this extensively. It is working very accurately. And again, the Excel spreadsheet works in exactly the same way. So you have a drop-down menu. You can use multi-select as well.
Yeah, if you scroll down now, the subset of 62 risks are now filtered to that specific deployment model. So you have a good starting point to look at if I'm using in my AI system this type of deployment model. Here are all the risks that I should be thinking about, and here is how now I'm going to look at the initial risk impacts and business impacts, and now you are going to reason these with your business stakeholders and the applications that are going to be built on with this AI system that you're building. And then you will be looking at the applications that are going to be integrating into. So you have a good starting point with this worksheet to start implementing the controls. So let's see how the applicable controls looks like from here.
Yeah, no problem. And before we go into that, it's a good point you talk about. It's a good starting point to start the conversation with business, to show them that there has been some thought around what the deployment model is, what data sets you're using, who your stakeholders are, what are the compliance requirements, what are the potential impacts if you do nothing, what are the business impacts if you do nothing, and then what are the controls that you can implement to stop this negative stuff from happening. So onto controls. So what we found is when you filter on risk, you still have multiple controls that you need to implement to reduce that risk. And our controls, they run across multiple risks. So we needed to work out what is the actual set of risks that you need to go and look at. So one control at a time. So that's when we built this control applicability based on the same filtering of the deployment model type. So where you don't need to select this deployment model type again, you only need to select it once in the main sheet, and it comes across into the second sheet. So you won't see that drop-down menu to select a different deployment model type. If you wanted to change your deployment model type, you go back to the first one and change it there. So we'll add in a new one, let it do its filtering, and the control applicability will be updated based on that.
Yeah, Ben, let's fill in the days of risk applicability, let's fill up the use case name and show them how it looks on the sheet. So let's just make up some AI use cases,
Something. We go here, customer credit history, something like that. Customers. Something like that. We just go here. It's public, say loan application. Whatever. Yeah, if you enter all of the information into this first sheet, it'll come across into the controls applicability sheet. You don't need to retype that in. So if you want to do any editing, you do editing on the risk applicability using the drop-down menus or manually typing into these free text field, and it will come across automatically into the controls applicability sheet.
Okay.
Did you want to add anything else to that, Arun, before we go through and look at all the extra information on the controls applicability worksheet?
This is great. At this point, they have a comprehensive list of controls that are aggregated or like summarized for the risk set that is applicable to that deployment model. We are at a listing of the controls that they should be looking at. So please walk them through the controls and how this sheet would be helpful for them to go to the next step.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, we've got a refined list of controls. So we're pulling the information from the main two sheets, where you can see the control reference ID, the description, and also a bit more information of where that control sits within the components of each of the of the AI system that's been described in the main white paper document. The next lot of columns is just, again, there's more information that we've chosen to bring across out of the main sheets, which the main home for that is the white paper. So we've got the responsibility model. If you're a Databricks customer, if it's a control that you need to configure yourself, or if it's a control that's already done within the platform and maintained by Databricks. If you're not a customer of Databricks, obviously these controls might sit in with your machine learning platform of your choice. But again, the controls have been written in a way where it's very simple English. If you need to build a control on your own, it's very good guidance of how you build a control, or how you would be able to see if your own platform has a similar control. Again, the security analysis tool, if you're using the security analysis tool on Databricks, you can see if your control is implemented or not. And then again, there's more helpful information for Databricks customers and links to controls where you can have guidance for implementing them for each of your cloud platforms that you're using Databricks on. The next thing is the refined list of control mappings for all these external frameworks that we're choosing to map to. So that's the 9 frameworks that we did as part of DASF 2.0. So yeah, MITRE Atlas, 2 versions of there, MITRE ATT&CK, OWASP, LLM Top 10. This is the latest in 2025. And again, where we found helpful web links, we put that information into this, so there's all pre-filtered as well. And the new ISO 42001 AI management system controls, like this, so all the Annex A controls that we found applicable that sort of had some correlation or intent based on the DASF control, and also ISO 27001. It's actually a good thing to bring up here is the DASF framework is not just an AI security framework. It does look at traditional risks and controls, around encryption, authentication, access control, which some of the newer AI frameworks, they just really look at the novel risks and controls, not the traditional risks and controls. So it was good to put these two together side by side to show how the breadth of the DASF framework is not just AI security. It's also a lot of the traditional stuff that you still need to be across and to have your AI system secure and stable. NIST, this is a big framework that we map to as well as HITRUST. So, Arun, do you want to talk about the mapping that you did with HITRUST?
Yeah, we actually worked very closely with HITRUST, which is a standards body for health information systems within the United States. They actually released their AI system security standards, and we mapped to HITRUST here. And HITRUST also actually mapped their recommendations to Databricks AI Security Framework. So it's nice to have this bidirectional between our standard as well as HITRUST. So that if you're coming from one of these, you would be in a good place when it comes to building your health information systems within US, and then be able to accomplish the necessary controls that HITRUST recommends.
Yeah, so that is the Compendium document, very high level, quick walkthrough. Yeah, just sort of recap of what we tried to do with the Compendium document. Again, is to give you a detailed version of trying to understand your model, your deployment model types, and then a way where you can refer back to understand the components and the risks that are applicable to your deployment model types. And then also another place where you can learn about the risks and the mitigation controls. And most importantly is the way you can evaluate and help you operationalize, what risks or controls and impacts are applicable, and then hopefully help a way for you to help you to deploy those controls and prioritize them as well.
Thank you very much for that, Ben. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully this was helpful for you to put Databricks AI Security Framework in practice and have a practical approach to implementing AI security controls for your AI system components. Thank you.
Thank you.